Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today we are talking about this character, American Chavez, that is going to appear in the new Doctor Strange movie. This means money for the creators. This doesn't it mean that? This means that obviously the heirs of the of the heirs of Ditko are trying to get some money for Doctor Strange. He's the one who said Stan Lee said it was Steve's idea, so we got something of that there. But Joe Casey is involved, and Cal had something to say about his thoughts on the creation and getting some sort of either benefit or a gift from Marvel with sort of his creation of the character. So can you give us any background on this and what you know on this?
America Chavez first appearance is Vengeance #1,
So it's
six
not
issue
this
limited
thing,
series.
not this crap that I got up here. Let me stop. Let me get out
Hey,
of
hold
there.
on. Yeah. Well, that's just a picture of her. You don't. I mean, that's better than Vengeance #1. Vengeance #1 is a picture of Magneto, so you're never gonna you're never gonna know about that. But you know, just she's that's her first appearance, and she's. I mean, for like she checks a lot of boxes. She's a female character. She's Latina. She's bisexual, if I remember correctly.
Oh
So
God,
she
sounds
checked a lot of boxes.
terrible.
I don't know if that was her initially. That the sexuality part may have come along later, but those are the things that we got. And then we have this where Marvel started doing their whole Marvel Now thing, where they started, oh, we're going to start bringing in these other characters. Sam Alexander is Nova, Miles Morales is Spider Man. Miles really took off, and Spider Gwen also took off. So a lot of those characters who came around that same time, there's been a lot of investment in them, like with Riri Williams, uh, Kate Bishop, and she was one of those characters as the future. Guys looking at it, future Marvel. I'm not going to miss out. I wasn't there for Spider Man, but I'm going to definitely be there for this character. So she gets she's making the jump to the silver screen, and they ask Joe Casey, which is kind of dumb because they know the answer to it anyway. But they ask Joe Casey if he's getting any money, for her being there. And Joe Casey's like, no, I'm not getting any money. And they're like, oh, well, why is that? He's like, well, they did offer me like 5,000, but that's a like, insult, slap in the face. I'm not going to take that. But Joe Casey, when he created the character, was under contract with Marvel, and anything that he created was pretty much as a salaried employee for Marvel, and he got paid for that character. Now, everybody, I think the general public always views if you're the creator, you own it, and
Mhm.
somehow you must have gotten shafted. You must have gotten shafted out of the creation, which is now going to be in a movie, and this movie is going to make all of this money, and you're not getting any money. And I think that's a misconception that really needs to be. I mean, it goes back as far as Siegel and Schuster, where people really have to understand that a lot of times these guys are contracted to create these characters. They're paid to create these characters, and they create a bunch of characters. Not every character hits. If you go using Superman as an example, there were a bunch of characters that were rolling around national periodicals at that time. Some that had been created by Siegel and Schuster earlier, like Slam Bradley, and characters like the Spectre that they created after. Those characters didn't hit like Superman. Few characters hit like Superman at the end of the day. And what happens when a character like that hits, that means, oh, wow, this guy's making how much money? That means we can justify day-to-day operations based on this character, based on this character, and then maybe we can get some clones like a Batman going on, Wonder Woman, and if those guys work for us too, we can get some more money coming in that way. But few characters hit like that because you have to look at the amount of characters that have been created in DC Comics and how many are recognizable figures. So then you look at America Chavez. America Chavez is popular with comic characters, some. And if you were to ask the average person about it, no, they would have no idea who this character is at the end of the day. So it's the idea that Joe Casey should be in line to get a cut of what's ever going on. We seem to forget that Joe Casey, like a lot of other creators, has probably created a bunch of characters, and most people have probably never heard of them. Most comic guys have probably never heard of them, but this one is going up. And then we'd have to say, well, for all the characters you didn't create, should you get a pay cut? Of course not. So this character that's going up here, this was all contractual, it was all above board, and you're not going to get paid for this because I mean, they want these characters to have some viability past the time when this guy is actually working. This is something that they can sell, and this also allows them to, create new characters, take risks on other ventures, help to support themselves. But they can't do that if they're paying out, 10% of every character ever created to all the creators. Then it just doesn't work at that day, and that's the reason why they have those contracts, and people are supposed to be adhering to them. So the idea of them approaching. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Casey is saying this, but the idea that they approach Joe Casey like he's some sort of victim and he's being shafted out of monies. No, Joe Casey got paid. Joe Casey was a salaried employee at his time with Marvel. He was under contract, and part of that contract was to write, to create. He did just that. One of his characters is going into the movie screen. Okay, great, but that was what was he did. He got paid for what he was supposed to do. The and again, I know that the public feels, well, you created it, you should get a little something, but you did get paid. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that you did get paid for this. And if that's the case, then you would have to really try to. The contracts would be like pay for play if it went the way the public thought, because then it would be like, okay, you created this character. If this character doesn't hit, you don't get anything. It's the same with like a soccer player. Like if you don't play in the game, you don't get paid. No, everybody wants their guaranteed contract, but at the same time, like, well, and I wouldn't mind the cut if this thing goes a little bit further. That's where the rub hits, because you want icing on top of the icing.
Well, that first thing I posted, it seems like Joe Casey made his own character similar to America after that with Image, that was published at the same time America got her own series. So he kind of like just said, all right, I'll just make this over at at Image now. So it's just like, I think I'm going to show you an image that I think was at Bleeding Cool had, where they put these two together. So it's kind of wacky, using this sort of flag, this and that symbolism that they're using for both of the characters, real similar, to be like that. So I think, I don't know, maybe the buzz of him creating and then moving to Image and doing his own version of it, of a character he created, is real wacky. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm all for characters, creators getting something for this thing. And I think the creator percentage probably, I don't know if it's still in play or not, was that 4%?
That's done.
They got rid of that, so there's nothing for you. I was like, so
the contracts. See, remember, I know you have to remember this, because these guys who were in the 70s after the whole thing with Schuster and Neil Adams, those guys really pushed for the creators' rights and getting a percentage and those type of things. And I think that went through the 90s with guys like Rob Liefeld, who took advantage of it. He's like, I'm gonna create as many damn characters as possible, and if one of these guys hit, I'm gonna get a percentage. And then those guys didn't stay with it, because what did they said, well, look, I'm not gonna create new characters for Marvel and DC. I'll just do this type of stuff, or I'll rehash theirs, and I'll save my characters for when I do my independent stuff. Doesn't necessarily hit, but that also changes the dynamic, because the contract or the creative stuff is not the same. The stuff that they're signing off on, because a lot of these guys were like, well, I'm not going to create new stuff for you. I'm not going to create new stuff for you guys anyway. I'm saving that. I'm going to save that for my independent books, and when it hits, I'm going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars if it hits.
Yeah, I think I don't think 5,000 anything to sneeze at, and obviously they did I mean, if you participate in this way, and you can talk with these people, I don't think that they would totally. They then made a show about her, but I think her being a bit character, they're not going to be breaking the bank, giving away money. But I mean, it would be good to keep him keep him around, but at the same time, whenever I complain about stunts, it feels like a kind of a stunt sort of character to kind of fill a void. And I don't really know, especially her being in this Doctor Strange thing. And it's like all your symbolism stuff is of a flag. And I don't necessarily look at it as a cool looking character. The character looks attractive, but at the same time, you're not selling me on what this person is. Like, obviously Captain America, that's got the thing with the army, that sort of thing. Obviously, could suggest he was fighting, or Cyclops, the eye beams, that sort of thing. Angel, he got wings, like the classic Stan Lee sort of, title close to the name, and then if Marvel Girl you don't realize it, oh, you don't need to worry because you have Iceman, Beast. You can kind of figure it out. Now the new X-Men kind of pushed that to the limits, but going America Chavez is just kind of saying, hey, we created a diverse character, Afro Cuban, Afro Hispanic character that, that the diversity that we don't have. And when I first saw it, I was just like, what happened to La Bandera that was in Wolverine that Archie Goodwin created with Byrne? And it's like, oh no, she died. And it's like, what? Like she's of Cuban descent. It's just like she's a mutant and all this stuff. She
Okay.
said she was
What
a front
about
character.
that's what's his name with Power Man and Iron Fist? El Aguila. I always thought that he would have gotten.
Yeah.
You know, he was pretty much Zorro with some mutant powers, and they were like,
Yes.
we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So the idea, and again, it's very postmodernist
Mhm.
in its view that nobody made. There weren't any diverse characters. There were no black characters. There were no Latino characters. There were no Native American characters until last year. That's when they all got. That's when they all got created. We need to see more diversity. And you're like, you've got to be kidding me. If you can go back, you could definitely go back to a certain point, and you can see a total absence of them. But after a certain year, there's a consistency in the amount of characters that are non-white, which is what a lot of people seem to think means diverse. You have those type of characters. You have characters that would be considered disabled, and that was like with Matt Murdock being blind. Okay, or who was the other one? I can't remember. There was somebody who. Oh yeah, even before him, Doctor Midnight.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Midnight at the end of the day, where you had you had characters like that. I know there's another one who only I might be confusing this with Mantis off the TV show, but you had characters where these were not, there weren't thousands of them, but you did have those characters, and we have to understand that you're not going to see a multitude of those characters because again, these are superheroes. They're idealized figures. Okay, and that is not an idealized situation at the end of the day. So we'll see some, but we're not going to see. It's not going to be widespread. Not every other character. I mean, if these guys go about it, they would have like every other character would be like every other type of a racial or ethnic category within the states. And I think that's just totally ridiculous because most people don't know any. Most people have probably in this country have probably never met a Native American.
Yeah.
Okay, they would probably be quicker to have seen a hurricane than to have shaken hands with somebody who's a Native American, at the end of the day. So that's something that, I'd say, look, you can have the diversity and so forth, but it can't be this overwhelming thing where we want to see this. And then in regular life, it doesn't, it doesn't necessarily exist. So I try to keep those things in mind because they tend to have some pushback on it. And the last thing you want is guys, well, what's the demographic population? What are you? You're 4%? All right, so you're going to show up 4% of the you're going to show up 4% of the time, and that's not what you want. Okay, you don't want to push it, too far. You don't want to push it too far either way. But with that being said, more of a popular character because of the ostensible diversity she's going to be bringing into the Marvel universe. But in this case, he's going to get anything? No, he's not going to get. No, he's not going to get anything. And he knows he's not going to get anything, and he understands why. And if he's not cool with it, I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys know they're adults. They are not new to the business. They understand what it means to sign a contract, and a lot of them don't see. You can't put yourself in a position where you're going to have a contract negotiation that means you are not going to be able to work at Marvel, DC, or one of the bigger publishers, where you're saying, well, hey, I don't, I got to make certain that I protect my own interests. So anything that I create, I want at least, 5% off of it. And these guys will be like, that's ridiculous. We got guys, this is already a closed medium in terms of hiring. So it's not easy to get into that. It's like being a truck driver or something. You really, it's not easy to get into comics. So you're doing this type of you're doing that type of stuff just means, hey, you're just not going to get picked up, and they will put somebody else on. That's that's the long and the short of it. So you're going to have, your type of contract negotiation would have to be, okay, I'm going to come in, and I'm going to do this, and then hopefully things work out, and then maybe I can renegotiate for something better. But that was not where guys were at. Guys wanted to do what they were going to do with Marvel and DC, make a name for themselves there, and then transition over to their independent work, and that's where they were going to make all of their money. That's where they were going to get all the stuff that they were looking for, because they were going to have the new character there, and they were going to promote that character. And even if that character didn't necessarily go off to do $5 it was still theirs, and they were going to see more money doing that than they were going to be doing with Marvel. Until, of course, as always, things change. Now everybody's like, oh man, look at all this money. I should be. I wish I was. But no, you went that route. You went that route and didn't have to. There were plenty of. Excuse me. There were plenty of guys. There were plenty of guys who had come before any of these these other guys like Joe Casey, who would establish, no, we want to be able to know that we're going to get something for the characters we recreate, and they decided not to pursue that once they felt that they could do better with the independent market.
Well, I mean, even though I was saying to that, I'd like them to. One of the things that you have to remember is that I think Frank Miller was joking about being on the Daredevil set, and he was joking about like having a sidebar that he would be fighting with Ben Affleck, that sort of thing, and then saying, no, he said, no, I was on the set of Daredevil for I think a day or something like that. Everyone was nice to me and that thing, not flipping out and saying, my characters, I own this is that, or like you don't hear Byrne this that flipping out about like Sabretooth or Kitty Pryde. He more flip out about the handling of the characters rather than saying, where's my money, and that sort of thing. It's like that's one of the things where it's like if Joe Casey signed up for a deal where it was nothing for the character and he already knew it, then there's not much you can do in this case. The fact that they're giving you 5,000 when you already knew the deal, it's not to turn yourself into. Well, that's the same thing. It's not to turn yourself into a. I got screwed like Kirby when if there's any royalties on that, any royalties that you received were more than what Kirby received in his career. So it's like you can't really compare yourself to him, and you can't compare your creations to what he did. And that's the same instance when you have people like Miller, who's a creator rights guy. Like he's one of the guys that was going, but he's not killing himself saying, screw them, they used my character, made a movie, and I get nothing. It's just like, no, I was young, I wanted to get this thing done, and I wanted those books to sell, and that's and I offered up this character to the title and stick and all the other stuff that he added to that thing, and not and before the creative percentage. The same with Kitty Pryde, Sabretooth. I think Walter Simonson probably between later, but at the same time, he hasn't talked. I think he had an interview recently. He was kind of saying, he's like, I didn't, I wasn't really a nut from about that stuff. It's like I lived comfortably. I do get some royalties from some of the stuff I did, so I don't have to work that hard. And I never really wanted to work that hard. So, but this thing where you just get that, how could like the I'm not going to take this because of this and that and the other. It's like, yeah, you might you might get into a place where you might sue or something like that. But most of the time, these people already knew what it was, and they knew that deal. And if you already knew that you weren't going to get the Rob Liefeld deal, when you got there, there's no reason to not take the $5,000 that they're going to offer you for this character and be like, hey, I'll be, if they make a TV show, maybe they'll throw you some more bucks. What's wrong? What's the wrong in that? If you already signed up for the deal and knew what it was, that's what it is. So it's kind of sad to turn it into this, because I really didn't like the Winter Soldier stuff. Like the Winter Soldier stuff was really, when you got a thing where you can point out, as I think you said, that Rob Liefeld had pointed out all the reasons why you shouldn't be given what's it is it Greg Rucka, the writer of the Winter Soldier, getting him any money for this character?
Ed Brubaker.
Ed Brubaker, thank you, Ed Brubaker. So that giving him any money when you have all these other creators like Joe Simon or Joe Simon's family, the Kirby heirs, or the all the stuff that was already done and established by Marvel, and then you're saying, well, why isn't this guy the story? Like, well, maybe they could give the guy something for story, but that's not what they're trying to say. That just he should be a millionaire because there's a there's a Winter Soldier character, the Winter Soldier TV show, when it's like a derivative. It's not even derivative; it's the same character. So it's like it's still Bucky Barnes, and you didn't make it into, Steve Rogers' fifth cousin, and like coming into there where they could give you something. Or the thing is, that's the thing. If the Ed Brubaker thing turned into like a Ed Brubaker thing turned into a thing where he signed up where he knew he wasn't going to get any money for it, then what are we talking about? It is what it is. You're trying to make your name, and now look at you. He's got the graphic novels. He's not hurting for anything, He's just hurting for money that he's seeing that they got now. And it's like not use it for, and it's not a thing where you're past your prime, where it's like, whereas I think when I don't know, I think well, there's no big successes. There's no big movie successes for Marvel, so you can't really look at it and say, oh, look at the superpowers cartoon, and they won't let Kirby do anything after that. Where they let Kirby do a superpowers comic book where he was involved in at least the ideas and then the art in the second one. So I just think, yeah, going back to I agree ultimately that if he signed this deal and he knew that it wasn't going to be a thing where you get residuals outside of royalties for the comic books that he did, and it seems like it was a side character. This is how it kind of happens. You never know who's going to be the next Spider-Man, and she's not really the next Spider-Man. She's just a diverse character that they're saying, hey, we can kind of build some diversity when they could have just put Brother Voodoo in the book. Brother Voodoo has appeared in Doctor Strange, but that's the diversity you need in there.
Well, I think he's supposed to appear in. I think he's supposed to appear in the film. That's the room. I don't know how much of he could just have like a quick cameo or something. But we'll see how that goes. So who knows? Since they got what's his name, Baron Mordo, they might just double over and say, hey, well, he's black already. Let's just make him Doctor Voodoo. At the end of the day, go that go that route with it. But
or Fred Hembeck's sister Voodoo, throw that in there.
There's a whole bunch of these characters that exist already that you could put in there, but for various reasons, they decided to go this route with this character or that character, and they're really trying their best to keep their finger on the pulse of what they think is going to work for them on a whole bunch of different levels, monetarily, commercially, all that type of stuff. So, I can dig all of that, but at some point, the whole idea of, I was robbed, that's the reason why people have contracts. Okay, that is the reason why people have contracts. Imagine you have a house, you sell your house, you change your mind. You're like, I want the house back. Well, hey, you already have an agreement that this is what it's going to be. And this is still the States. You can still go and sue. You can still go and sue and tie stuff up and do all of this. But the idea of that contract, if you're of sound mind and, if you're over it, you're of age, I guess the last killer would be that you have legal representation, which they probably didn't need for those type of things. But those things are binding. And the other reason is that, again, if I'm the guy who's putting in, and I don't know if people get that part of it. If you're the publisher, how much money are you putting up every year to try to make this stuff viable? And out of 100 characters, get a new character in a comic. If you went back like Silver Age, Bronze Age, there was like a new character every issue. There was a new villain every issue. How many of those characters stick? And yet you got to come up with the money to put this out on a regular basis, not just that book, but all the other books, trying to, not even trying to catch fire, okay, but just trying to keep people interested and trying to keep this ship going. But nobody's trying to create this saying, look, we hope we get another, we're create another Spider-Man for us. If it hits, it hits. But they understand how rare that is. So they're just trying to put out good content on a regular basis, keep the numbers where they are, keep this thing viable, so on and so forth.
And
So,
I was only
but
gonna add, it's not like the music industry where they basically it is built on their backs, but they have a back door where they're giving you loans or for your own success. So there's
yes,
no, and publishing deals, you're getting this advance, which is actually a publishing deal, and you lose you create the Pee Wee dance, and then they're still making money off of Pee Wee dance, and you're saying, well, wait a second, no, you got that advance. Remember that advance? That was actually a publishing deal. So we keep the publishing, and it's just like, well, I
and
wrote this.
the music industry is definitely more known for their underhanded tricks, I think, than any other industry.
Yes.
But I don't want to I don't want to hit them with the I don't want to sack them either, because it's the same thing for any, be it the music industry, be it the comic industry, be it the book industry. Those guys are putting up a lot of money, and a considerable amount of money at the end of the day, and a lot of the stuff doesn't return. I don't excuse the music industry, for when they do the underhanded stuff, but in the same breath, a lot of these guys are signing stuff, they're not reading it.
Yeah.
They're not reading it, they're not looking at it, they're just, and I get it. You're just so happy to have a record, you're just so happy to be published and see that thing up there, and finally you've achieved this goal, this dream that you've had. And then the money comes later. Okay, the money comes later because there's always this assumption that somehow the money is going to be there later. And you do have to have that presence, of mind with dealing it. There's that business aspect of it. However, in a situation where everything is above board, you can't cry foul.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's weird that what's the name? That just the end on this is that I just put it up there by mistake, but then we have this character that got a thing in the Hollywood Reporter talking about America Vasquez and the connection to Joe Casey. So it's just wow that he already did the post creating a character and then doing, what is it, Leonard the Duck or Destroyer Duck type of deal. He
Yeah.
already did that sort of thing, and then now it's like he's not telling the whole story. He's like, well, I just took my part of the character and did go read America Vasquez. But anyway, this is a wacky portion of how comic books go, where they just take the character, or what's the name, the stuff that was done at Atlas Comics that they just took and did
They did
Marvel.
all the Marvel. They did all the Marvel characters, some of which became Marvel characters.
Yes.
At the end of the day, that was just so, it's so wild when you look at the Hulk, the Brute. It was just so wild to look at it. It's not even, it's not
Oh,
even thin. It's not even thinly veiled. It's just it's wild to see that. I mean, I don't know if you read any of the stuff either, because you had, like, what was it, like, Demon Slayer became Devil Slayer over at
yes,
Marvel.
yep, yep. If you
You had
read,
was it the Scorpion became Dominic Fortune?
yep, exactly.
And you're
That's,
reading this stuff, you're like, hey, isn't this the Scorpion?
yep,
Hey, what
that's
happened?
the thing. But what was it? Once we get into that, I saw the original plan for that, and for Atlas, and it sounded, some of the characters sounded interesting, but Martin Goodman wanted, no, we need it to be more like Marvel. We're beating them at their own game, but yeah, I mean, this thing, you sign up, you know what the deal is. Then we can't sit around here and crying about this because you have all the pros before you, not the ones that got screwed. That's saying, I can't wait to be in comics. The Perez's, the Burns, the this, that, and the other. It's like, whatever, it don't matter. We just want to get into this thing. And we look on the back, it says copyright of Marvel Comics Group, that sort of thing. And I mean, some people have forgotten that, like Marv Wolfman, but even though he was editor in chief, but this is just what it is. It is what it is. They can give you $5,000. Play ball. When they do a TV show with a character, maybe they will give you some money there. But if that's the case and you got someone that's upset, then why don't you go out and instead of doing that character, go do the character that I want to see in film, which would be Here we go. La Bandera, who was in Wolverine. The name is a nation. She's a character like has a flag, has the costume. La Bandera. She inspires people that builds up her power, and this is like it's simple. It makes all sense. It's just like a fun character. I think she's Cuban, but nope, they killed her. Marvel killed her off. Somebody said, "Hey, I need a character to kill off." Well, that goes into a whole nother thing, but that's where
It's like
we're
you
gonna
can kill off. You can kill this one off. You can kill off La Bandera. She never. We can always make another one. That's no big deal.
yeah.
I mean, there's a what is it? There's a guy who has what is it? He's independent. It's an independent comic. What's it? La Boriqueña.
Oh,
And yeah, so I mean that's pretty much La Bandera right there. You know,
yeah.
that's pretty much La Bandera right there. So at the end of the day, you're like, hey,
This thing you don't when they're throwing out when some of these people are throwing out that's the thing. Roy Thomas who threw out the initial idea for Wolverine. He immediately only said that I was surprised. I'm glad that they finally put my name back as one of the creators of Wolverine. Someone remembered that I did have a hand in saying asking for a Wolverine character and putting the creators on it to flesh them out, that sort of thing, to put them in with Roy and obviously with Lin Wen and John Romita, that sort of thing. But they're not killing them. We got Roy Thomas not killing themselves. Oh, even Stan, who basically only wanted his money for his executive producer thing. That's the only thing he sued for, the money owed as an exec producer. So you got other people before you that play the game better and not falling over themselves, trying to be like, I was screwed. I got screwed.
well, you have you've got these platforms today where you can come out, say you're a victim, and get a whole bunch of public sentiment. And it's been shown that sometimes that public sentiment, that ostensible public pressure, can work. And these guys might be able to move the needle a little bit for themselves. But for every person it works for, you got what's his cat's name again from the Justice League film? The guy who played Cyborg, Ray.
Oh God.
You get a
Ray
guy like that.
Fisher. Ray
You got
Fisher.
Ray Fisher. Where you got Ray Fisher. It's like, okay, great. You got a great Twitter army, but are you going to actually work again with any of these people? Because, and rightfully so, they're going to look and they're going to say, I don't know. You look to be a little, you might be a little bit hard to handle at the end of the day. Yeah, we definitely want to respect your rights, but we don't want to get sued. We don't want to get sued because of anything that you perceive.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you decide that you're going to be really litigious, guys will stay off you when it comes to, if you're going to do those type of things, guys are going to stay off you when it comes to getting work, as when it comes to the creative aspects as well. So yeah, understanding how the game works is very, very important. Signing a contract and you didn't read it is a bad move, and signing a contract and you understand it means that you're going to have to be adult enough to seriously just come out and say, hey, look, I got paid to create the character. I'm really happy to see it there. And yeah, sure, it'd be great to get some extra money, but that wasn't the arrangement. But and really be that way about it, as opposed to, well, they offered me 5 grand, but it was like a slap in the face, pittance or something of that nature. It's like, dude, you know how this game is played. They're not going to offer you more than that. Because if you're dumb enough to take it, then you've already ratified everything. Because they're going to say, well, look, we gave him some money and he took it. So obviously he was okay with that. Legally, that's going to be really, really hard to refute. And then they're not going to offer you more. They're not going to offer you more than that, because if they offer you 100,000, everybody and their brother's going to have their hand out. Like, well, I created La Bandera. What about my money?
Yeah. Or even when Shooter was talking about it, I'm guessing they're doing a Secret Wars something or another. He said like, why? Because they've been trying to get me to sign something or give me some money for this character. And I was like, why? Like that was created while I was editor in chief. That's isn't that the company? They know we need you to sign something. All right, just send it and I'll sign it. I say, all right, here's some money. Hey, yeah, all right, whatever. it's like he's looking like I think he's looking at it legally. It's like basically I was editor in chief, so it's kind of not something where I would participate in those things. And Marvel or Disney looking at it, well, we need something in writing because there's nothing in writing for this character or whatever they're using. So um these guys are I don't know. This the rock and roll, the doing the Alan Moore complaining about stuff, about everything. It's like, I don't know about this all the time. Come on, guys. I guess that's about it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm with it.
Spinnerack out.
Out.